Hey Zingers, it's Gay Leach, and I have a wonderful guest for you today. It's Andy Swan, the co-founder of LikeFolio. So great to be with you today, Andy.
Thanks for having me. It's awesome.
Hey, the pleasure and honor is all mine. Well, let's get right into it. I know that LikeFolio provides insights to investors, analysts, marketers, even brands by listening to the consumers online. How can consumer sentiment and purchase intent predict shifts in stock prices and company performances in your estimation?
Yeah, it all starts with the consumer. That's the way we see it. And the consumer is what makes the cash register ring. The consumer is what makes, top line revenues either beat or miss expectations. And so for us, getting insight into what's happening on Main Street before Wall Street figures out what's going on is the biggest source of alpha that we can deliver to investors, whether that's institutional investors or individual investors. That's our mission, and that's what we've become really quite good at.
Yeah, consumer definitely king, and having that
Yeah.
information is invaluable. And Andy, I know that the data and insight like Folio provides is super valuable to different client bases. Where right now are you seeing the most interest and demand?
Definitely the individual investor side. I think that there's a lot of uncertainty starting to creep into the market. You start to read these headlines about interest rates, the weakening consumer, the K-shaped economy. People are really starting to get a little nervous, even though markets are at or near, all-time highs. Nvidia's blowing things out. But for us, it's about figuring out where the consumer is going, where they're spending their money, what outliers are happening in terms of, what products are popping off the shelves, which are not. And that's where we can find that alpha. And individual investors really understand it because it just makes sense. If you walk in or drive down the same street every day and all of a sudden, Starbucks has a line around the block, something probably good is happening at Starbucks. Or if everybody's, lined up at Foot Locker to buy the new On running shoes, something's probably going well for On running. So it's intuitive for the individual investor. And, we just turn that data into those insights for them.
Yeah, all that outside noise can be overwhelming. You want to
Yeah.
quiet that down and be able to focus in,
Yeah.
Andy, of course. I want to talk about the brand to company map, something very cool you guys are doing. How does it work and how can users leverage it to make those very important investment decisions?
Yeah, that's something we had to build because it didn't exist before. And it's the only way we could really figure out by scraping or ingesting social media data. It's the only way we could figure out what companies' products people were actually talking about online. And in order to do that, we had to build a brand to company map that tells us every single product that is owned by every single publicly traded company and all the different ways that consumers might reference those products, whether it's slang, misspellings, etc., so that we can pick up search volume is up for Crocs. Website visits is down for Home Depot, things like that. So we had to build out this massive map. I think it's 500,000 brands and products we've got tied back to about 500 companies so that when we go out on the web and ingest all this data that we ingest, we understand what the consumer is talking about buying or not buying.
That's incredibly important, obviously, in this day and age when things can change on a
Yeah.
razor's edge. And AI is here, Andy, as you all know, and it's awesome in many different ways. How is LikeFolio using natural language processing and machine learning models to increase the predictive accuracy of the consumer purchase intent metrics, which obviously is another fascinating part of things?
Yeah, no, it's an enormous part of what we do. It's such a relief for us because let's say 6, 8, 10 years ago, we were really relying on some pretty rudimentary natural language processing. Now, with the advent of LLMs, et cetera, it's much easier for us to understand the context of what someone is saying online. When they write a review, when they post something on X, when they put something into a search bar, we can understand it much more easily now. Plus, we can, start to use AI to figure out which data sources are most important for different products. So that's another huge thing is for some companies, you know, what's happening on the reviews side of things is absolutely the most important. For another product, it might be website visits, and for another product, it might be those social mentions and whether teenagers are really starting to talk about this product a lot, things like that. So AI is helping us discover what intent is behind people's statements, and it's also helping us figure out what sources of data matter the most on a company by company, stock by stock basis.
As I love to say, what a time to be alive.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Andy, I want to ask you about how Folio stands out in the alternative data space, and are you facing a lot of competition? And of course, what gives the company the edge?
Yeah, we face a ton of competition, and alternate data has been a huge growing sector for a long time because everybody's looking for that edge. There's really, in terms of data feeds, the standard data feeds, everybody has all the data feeds. Everybody has all the real-time price data, volume data, earnings estimate shifts, etc. What stands out is those access points into alternate data, which we provide and we do a very good job of. And really, I think what helps us stand out the most, again, you nailed it before, is that brand map, is that understanding of the entire landscape of what the consumer is looking for. So there's a lot of alternative data companies that can tell you whether or not, heating oil usage is up in the Northeast, or whether or not, more people are in the parking lot at the malls in Boston and Minneapolis. But when it comes down to figuring out individual companies, individual products, you really have to have that brand map built out. And as far as I know, we're the only ones that have it. The reason is because it was incredibly, incredibly hard to build.
Hey, nothing good is ever easy, Andy. That's for
Yeah.
sure. Andy Swan, the co-founder of LikeFolio. That was an absolutely fascinating conversation. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.